What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? Fully 9 coming at you another community shoutcast for the Aspect of Gaming Dota 2 Community Crackdown. We're loading into game number 1 of TDT up against Cheesecake Gaming. This is the upper semis, I believe, so the winner of this will move on to the finals for the bracket E. And so they'll be facing the winners of the losers bracket. And so TDT, I believe they came third in the AGI Gaming National New Zealand tournament about a month and a half ago. So a very talented and very skilled team. I do think they might have actually replaced one of their members, Wasker. I don't think it was for the AGI, it was in the AGI tournament, but we're just waiting for the last spectator to load in and we should be good to go. I haven't casted any of the games for Cheesecake Gaming, so it will be interesting to see how they play. I believe TDT actually knocked 5 IP down into the loser bracket for bracket E, and 5 IP are the winners of the OUSA Dota League Season 2, which just finished about a week ago. So hopefully we shouldn't have any issues with the last spectator loading in. I think it might be one of the admins still hanging around. But that being said, worst case scenario, we could always remake the lobby. So hopefully it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But I believe TDT, they are the ones that have first picks and they had sound. So at any rate, it will be interesting to see what hero they decide let slip through the first banning stage. TDT, they're a team that really like to run a core position Mirana. And so I think the admin's the one's lagging out. So the rationale behind the core position Mirana is an incredibly flexible hero when it comes to the drafting stage, since a lot of teams expect her to be run as a support position hero. It does give you a huge amount of impetus. Alright. So it looks like it was one of the admins, but they are now out of the game, so we should be good to go. Whoever is admin, I think it must have randomly passed on to one of the players. Okay, so there we go. So for those of you just joining us, I'm 49, community shoutcaster for the Aspect of Gaming, for the Dota 2 Crackdown, and we are loading into the upper semis for TDT, the Doto team, up against Cheesecake Gaming, and hopefully we're in for an absolute treat. As TDT, they do like to go for a few rather unconventional strategies. Their carry player, the understudy, he loves to go Sanjin Yasha on every single carry hero he plays, and so it looks like at Cheesecake Gaming, they have first pick, so it will be interesting to see who they decide to let slip through the first banning stage. We have been seeing a lot of teams giving away the Brewmaster, so it's something that's very unconventional as well. So Lycanthrope, they have made it through in a few drafts. So Lycanthrope first ban followed by Tidehunter, so the Doto team, they really don't want to mess with a Radiant offlane Tidehunter. Especially since Tide is currently the most powerful offlane hero in the game. That's because of how flexible he is, in the sense that if you do happen to shut him down, he can always recover by stacking and clearing out Ancients, which is a luxury that a lot of offlaners don't have. We've actually got a second ban Centaur Warrunner, and so Warrunner is usually not banned in the first banning stage. If he is banned, it's usually the second banning stage once you start to eliminate those tier 1 heroes. And Centaur Warrunner, like a Batrider, it's very easy to shut him down. And unlike the Batrider, he doesn't have the he doesn't have the lane presence through Sticky Napalm and through the Firefly, so we're going to face this Void Ban coming up from TDT. So they have given away the Radiant side Tinker, and maybe TDT are baiting it out, because we've got an immediate Tinker pickup coming up from TDT. So the only rationale behind the Centaur Warrunner ban is to try to bait the enemy team to giving away either the Void or the Tinker or the Brewmaster. And so TDT, now that the Tinker has been picked up on the Radiant side, the clock is on them. Tinker is the single most powerful late game hero in the game. If the game goes past 50 minutes, there's a very good chance that the team with the Tinker is going to win. And because he's got the Marching Machines as well as some Missile Spam, it's very difficult to breach high ground. And so the most effective way to deal with Tinker is to kill him, is to shut him down in lane, shut him down early, and take his towers before the Boots of Travels comes online. If you're able to take his tier 1s and start pressuring the tier 2s by the time his Boots of Travels comes online, he doesn't have as much farming space to work with because he's lost a lot of map control. And once you start to tighten the noose around his team, it's very difficult for the Tinker to recover. But the biggest mistake that a lot of teams do make when playing against the Tinker is they try to breach high ground too early. You have to, unless if you're able to kill the Tinker outside the base, you never want to breach high ground too early, because you could risk throwing away your advantage, unless you have a hero such as a Clockwork Goblin that could catch out the Tinker inside his base, or if you have a hero like a Juggernaut that can provide the healing ward, so you could push through the march unhindered. Otherwise, if you do spend too much time throwing yourself against the high ground of the team with the Tinker, you're in for a pretty bad time. It's the March spam, it can constantly drive you back. Missile spam will keep your support slow. If you ever do commit, you're rotating into the tier 3 tower, whacking you the entire team, which is hidden, and then the March Missile spam. So we've got Death Prophet as well as Mirana, and Death Prophet's a hero that works very well against the Tinker, because she gives you the ability to be able to dominate the lane. Just through spamming out that Crypt Swarm, you're able to get a lot of harass, push back the creep equilibrium, so you could maintain rune control, and of course harass the enemy hero at the same time. Mirana picked up by TDT, most likely going to be their safe lane farmer Mirana. Going to be played by the understudy. They love running Mirana in that one position role. Because it gives you that drafting flexibility, since so many teams are used to seeing Mirana picked up in that 4 position role, or even the 5 position role, picked up with another setup ability hero. That means that they might actually waste a ban on a hero like a Shadow Demon or a Bane Elemental, or at most they might even be expecting Mirana to be run over in the offlane, although the offlane runner has tapered off just due to the fact that she has such low base attack. The advantage of the core position Mirana is you still can gank at 1, just like a rotating a support Mirana. You can still set up an arrow at 1 into the mid lane, try to get a pick off. If you don't, you can rotate back to your lane, you haven't really missed anything. You've got a 3000 range on that sacred arrow, so you don't really risk too much by throwing out that arrow, or you lose the mana. And the understudy, he really likes to skip Starstorm when he plays the Mirana, and max out that arrow and leap ASAP. And so the rationale behind it is to ensure that you're a lot more mana efficient, since Mirana's mana pool really can't sustain prolonged usage of the Starstorm, unless you go something like Phase Drum. But they like to go for a lot more active early game items. Sanj and Yasha, a very powerful snowballing item if you do get it very early on, especially on a hero like Mirana, because you have such massive mobility with the phase as well as the leap, to be constantly reposition yourself in and out of these fights. And once the Maelstrom or the Molnir comes online, Mirana hits like an absolute truck, because you're dealing so much AoE damage to the entire team. And so we've already got a Wraith King ban coming out from Cheesecake Gaming, so they have successfully baited out another support ban that goes well with Mirana. Since Wraith King and Mirana is a very powerful support duo, you've got the 2-second Wraithfire Blast and the 2-second Snare afterwards to ensure that the arrow lands. And once you've got the Wraithfire Blast into the arrow, you've got enough damage off the back of that, you should be able to bring them down. With that being said, TDT, they could decide to run a support position run. It's just that in the games that I've casted with them, they do like to run that core position run, and they've banned out the Bat Rider as well as the Dazzle. And so Bat Rider works very well against the Death Prophet, since Death Prophet, the longer she's alive in these fights, the longer Exorcism is up, she's able to single-handedly win you the fight just by dealing such a massive amount of AoE damage with the Exorcism as well as the constant Crypt Swarm. And the best way to deal with her is to kill her very early on at the start of a fight, either before she could get Exorcism off, or once she gets Exorcism to immediately burst her down. So Bat Rider does this very successfully. He's the single best initiator in the game, because he immediately starts to fight forward. He isolates the enemy hero, pulls him back towards you once the 4 staffs come online. And so Tinker, he might actually consider even going for a 4-staff after Blink Dagger if there's a hero like a Clockwork Goblin on the enemy team, as that's something that Tinker players have to be very cautious of. Heroes that can hunt them when they start BOTing around the map are incredibly dangerous to the Tinker, and Tinker is entirely dependent on positioning. If you get caught out of position, you're not only are you going to be taking his ass, your entire team starts to fall apart, because Tinker's going to be taking farm from everywhere else. He's one of the most greediest one-position heroes in the game, similar to a one-position Naga Siren. He will farm all 3 lanes at once, as well as possibly even the jungle, so it deprives your team of a lot of gold. So that means that you want to ideally draft heroes that don't need too many items to be effective, so Shadow Shaman, Arcane Boots, and maybe a Blink Dagger, and he's good to go. If you're really lucky, you could go for the Aghanim Scepter, but it's an absolute luxury for a support position Mirana. Support position Shadow Shaman, sorry, especially with the Death Prophet and the Mirana in the field. Heroes that should be able to hunt down the Shadow Shaman very easily. So we've actually got a counter pick Clockwork coming out from Cheesecake Gaming, and so the rationale behind picking up Clockwork especially is to give them a much more powerful early game, since whenever the enemy team picks up a soft support duo such as a Jakiro, yeah, you want to pick up a Clockwork Goblin, because Jakiro can't cast when he's under Battery Assault. It prevents him from being able to use his Ice Path, so he has no way to be able to control the Clockwork, and Clockwork could go for a solo kill over in Jakiro. So whenever one of the supports are rotating out to be able to pull, and you notice that one of the supports is stacking and pulling, you play hyper aggressive and go into other support. That's the power of the Clockwork Goblin. If you catch a hero out with the Battery Assault, you don't even need cogs early on, you just start smacking them. We've got a Lone Druid pickup coming up from TDT, so most likely going to be the offlane hero. We have seen Lone Druid run in the tri-lane as a safe lane farmer, and it does work very well, but in this case, because Mirana can't contest CS as effectively as the Lone Druid in the offlane, unless if they decide to run a support position run, but in that case you don't really have much reliable setup, since you can never consider Jakiro's Ice Path to be reliable, even if you have an exceptionally skilled Jakiro player, just because he has such a high cast rate and such a low toning speed, that you always have to keep that into account when the Jakiro is being picked up. So we've got Shadow Shaman that works very well with Tinker, because you could use them to be able to delay pushes by dropping the mass weapon wards. It effectively acts as another tier 3 tower, so you could use it defensively. It also provides you a lot of offensive capability, since he's always able to provide that lockdown and ether shock damage in these engagements. So if the fight becomes long and drawn out, the Radiant side have that significant advantage just through the Tinker March spam. And so the Clockwork Goblin being picked up also works as a counter pick, because Clockwork's one of the best heroes to counteract that Tinker, since you could use the Rocket Flare to scout him out in trees when he BOT blinks in, and then hookshot in after a minute and bring him down. Also helps you breach high ground because you're constantly able to provide that rocket flare vision, so you know exactly where the Tinker's positioned. And so Clockwork Goblin, a fantastic pickup to work against the Tinker. And so Cheesecake Gaming, they're picking him up to capitalize on the soft support duo that they see so far, the Jakiro and perhaps the Mirana from their point of view. And they're also using it to prevent the enemy team from picking up the Clockwork. We've got a Spectre ban now coming out from TDT, and Spectre's a hero that works very well with the Tinker because she has that global ganking presence as well as that global team fighting presence with the Horn, so that way they could just afford to have her sit in lane farm while the Tinker farms as well. And if the enemy team try to engage on them, they're going to be fighting into the Tinker BOT as well as the Spectre Horn, so it makes it very difficult for TDT to be able to take these engagements.
5 seconds remaining.
And Spectre also provides you a huge amount of immediate teamfight impact, since she's one of the few carry heroes that can immediately jump in the backline. And so you always want to prioritize the backline heroes as the 2 support heroes in the enemy team, and either drive them out of a fight so they're forced to go back to Fountain, or kill them. So that the enemy team, their core heroes, they don't have their support. Especially since the support heroes are usually the ones that carry the majority of their CC abilities. You want to be able to drive out the backline as quickly as possible. And it also makes it much easier for the enemy team to break and try to disengage, especially if they take a casualty at the start of the fight. And so we've got a Pugna ban now coming out from Cheesecake Gaming. Pugna, a hero that works exceptionally well against the Tinker, just because Tinker is so mana dependent, and the Nether Ward will completely tear him apart. Also works well against the Shadow Shaman. If he drops his Mass Serpent Wards, he'll be eating enough damage that it might actually kill him outright at the later stages. So we're going to Abbadon pick up, so Abbadon and Jakiro is a support duo. Very powerful defensive support duo, but the biggest weakness of the Abbadon is he gives you absolutely nothing offensively. If you pick out an aggressive carry hero, such as for instance a Weaver, then Abbadon can be used aggressively, because it gives Weaver the ability to be able to dive towers and not give a single down. But if you pick him up with a Mirana, can function in that same sense, and you can choose to dive if you get a good arrow in, or you could always leap into and continue that kill. But Abbadon, you can't rotate with the Abbadon Jakiro, and so the mid lane's going to be completely self-sufficient. So Death Prophet can't expect any help to be coming in from those two, whereas Tinker can still expect a support rotation coming in from the Treant Protector as well as the Shadow Shaman. And we've got a Clinkz as that carry hero, so we're going to be seeing what looks like a safe lane Clinkz with the offlane Clockwork, and because they've got the Radiant offlane, most likely going to be dodging their tri-lane. They have no real need to clash tri-v-tri. So they introduced players from both teams. Over on Cheesecake Gaming, Jack Perry running to the mid lane. No regen being picked up on him. Null Talisman as well as 2 GG branches, give as much base damage as possible. Clockwork rotating up, he actually doesn't have a safety ward. We've got a Sentry Ward being picked up by Tinker over on the Radiant side to ensure that the Ancient Camp, if that's warded, it can be immediately dewarded by placing that Sentry Ward there. So good recognition coming up from the Radiant side. Alexander George Lewis going to be over on that Shadow Shaman. He's going to be the 4th position for his team, as he wants to get his Arcane to blink ASAP, as the biggest weakness of the Shadow Shaman, and he's a very greedy support hero in order to be effective. Jin Yong going to be the Clockwork Goblin. There we go, safety ward's now up on him. We've got Akijao. I'm absolutely sorry if I had no idea how to pronounce it. I'll just call him HX16. Going to be over in the Clinkz. Already skilled Shadow Walk at 1. You usually want to hold on to your skill point because you want Searing Arrows for the CS. Club's going to be over on the 5th position Treant Protector. And over for TDT, looks like they're clashing tri-v-tri, so Notra, their offlane player, he's going to be playing the safe lane Lone Druid. So I expect him to go toe-to-toe up against the Clockwork Goblin. The understudy going to be over on the Mirana. They immediately drop a ward, but that's been pinged out by HX16. Crap Pack going to be the 5th position Jakiro. Nada Ramen going to be the 4th position Abbadon. And over in the mid lane, Waska going to be their mid player over on the Death Prophet. So we've got some very aggressive wards coming out. So what does it ensure that there's no rotations going to be happening over to the bottom lane when you clash Ag-Tri. And you've also got this ward to prevent any further rotations from coming in, as well as to spot out if anyone happens to be jungling. And so a very aggressive ward's been placed there by TDT to give them as much aggressive pressure as possible. So they know that the Lone Druid, left alone against the Clockwork Goblin, should be able to dominate the lane quite handedly. And they've got the stronger tri-v-tri lineup since Clinkz. At level 1, especially since he skills Shadow Walk, it did save his life though. He's not going to be a threat at all until he picks up a point in Searing Arrow, because he can't even go for CS. Nada Ramen and Crap Pack should be his own amount quite effectively. Nada Ramen actually looks like he's the one going for CS. So we are going to be seeing what looks like potentially a carry Abbadon, as the understudy picked up Smoke of Deceit. So yeah, he's actually picked up Sport Arm. So we are going to be seeing a core position Abbadon. Abbadon works very well in that core position role because he's very self-sufficient as a carry hero. You usually pick him up as a counter pick to an offlane hero such as a Batrider, because you could leave Abbadon alone against the Batrider, and he does very well. The Abbadon can shield himself if he gets a few stacks of the sticky napalm, so Batrider can never play aggressively against him, and it means that the supports are free to rotate. And if the supports are free to rotate and create space elsewhere, you're going to be able to win your mid lane and break even on your off lane. So it gives you a huge amount of viability. It's the reason why you often see safe lane Invoker in the competitive scene run especially by IG, when they do decide to go for that Quas Exile Invoker, because Quas Exile Invoker, after 2-3 levels, becomes self-sufficient. You can leave him alone against the enemy offlane, and he does very well. The understudy being pinged out by Clubs, so Clubs is perhaps looking to go in. He unfortunately went for Living Armor at 1, so defensive build coming out from both the supports means that they're forced to play very passively in this lane, and that's the intrinsic weakness of the Treant Protector. You never want to go Living Armor at 1 unless you absolutely have to. Arrow Flies, unfortunately, whiffs over an HX16, so he's more than happy to be able to dodge that. You ideally want to go for Leech Seed at 1 if you pick up a Treant Protector and start with Boots first, so you can play very aggressively from the get-go. But that being said, at the same time, against TDT's lineup, you don't want to play aggressively against them, because with the Abbadon, they thrive on being able to counter-initiate and being able to turn these ganks around, especially with that APoG shields, with a purge off the Leech Seed. Becomes a very powerful way to be able to deal with them. Jakiro most likely going to be going for the 2 points in laser and max out March build. Yeah, there we go. So the second point in laser, the reason why you go for 2 points in laser is it gives you much more powerful laning presence. Since laser is an incredibly efficient nuke, since it counts as pure damage, 2 points in laser is equivalent to having 3 points in another nuke. So for instance, the Dragon Slave from Lina, it gives you around the same amount of damage with only 2 points. It's very cost efficient in terms of expanding levels for damage, and it's also very mana efficient, so you could afford to spam it out to harass out the enemy mid. Or otherwise, if you're against a mid matchup where you know that they can out-sustain you, or out-CS you in lane, you actually keep your point in laser in 1, so you can spam it out every time they try to go for CS to be able to blind them. But in terms of CS, what looks like Jab currently leading the scoreboards, 15 for 2, he's actually got an absolutely incredible amount of farm, and now he's stacking up the Ancients. There is a ward being placed there by his own side, so he was able to de-ward. He still has the Essential Ward available in case they happen to block it, and this is the advantage of the Radiant side tanker, is he could stack his own Ancients while he's there. It's much easier to defend the Radiant side Ancients compared to the Dire side Ancients, and you've got the stronger offlane, and so you could afford to go for Greed for the tanker, and tanker actually looks like he went for 2 points in cogs. The rationale behind that is that if he's able to get a cog block off, it's 120 mana being burned off, so it gives you a substantial amount of lane control. Of course, the only drawback of this is it doesn't give you anywhere near as much killing power. You want maxed out Barrier Assault ASAP. You sometimes see Clockwork players go for a second point in Flare to give them an easier lane stage, but you need that Barrier Assault maxed out ASAP, especially when you're dealing with the tanky support duo of the Jakiro, as well as the understudy you can simply leap on out, so you predominantly want to be going over on Jakiro. And the advantage of the Jakiro, of course, is he can provide you a massive amount of aggression and a huge amount of tower pushing presence with that buff to, or the rework to living up to Liquid Fire. You can play very aggressively against the towers. Arrow flies up from the understudy, does hit Clubs right in the face. It's a 5-second error, and so he should actually be taking a fall. The Ice Park is going to be flying. One more right click, and Crap Pack is able to chaos that with the Ice Park. So the understudy off to a good start with that fantastic error. He's taking a few staring arrow shots, but we've got a missed call coming out from Nado Roman. And so Nado Roman, despite playing what looks like perhaps a core position in Abbadon, hasn't been opting for any points in the Curse of Abbadon. So usually when you do see the core position in Abbadon, you go for max out APoG shield and then followed by the Curse to give yourself a lot of chasing capability. But that being said, if you do decide to play Abbadon in the traditional way and just go for max out APoG shield, maybe a point in Curse at 4 and then max out Miscoil, it still gives you a huge amount of damage potential. Since the biggest advantage of Abbadon as a 4 position or even as a 2 position is the fact that you can't really run away from him. He's always going to be able to deal damage to you with the Miscoil. Notro playing very aggressively, he's praying for an Entangle proc. Alexander George Lewis runs out. If the Entangle proc procced on him, he could have actually tried to turn and go for a kill attempt on him. But it looks like they've left Clinkz alone, so HX16, he's left completely to his own devices. He's at the Tender Mercies, and it looks like, yeah, he was able to get that little Tangle proc. Brings him down to Clockwork, not really going to be too happy with that. Spirit Bear perhaps looks like he's might be going for a Tranquil Boots early on. Although the Ring of Protection on the Spirit Bear does give you a huge amount of armor and sustainability in lane. It's a very cost-efficient way to boost your Spirit Bear's survivability. So Notro going to be farming up an absolute storm. Looks like Soul Ring is now up from Tinker. Leap flew out from the understudy, so it looks like he's in position himself very aggressively, and they are able to take their first set of their towers 5 minutes into the game. Now they're Ramen leading the charge, destroying them back. He's got Dust up on him. And so Clinkz can no longer rely on his Shadow Walk, especially since he's only got 2 points up in it. Tinker, he's farming up an absolute storm, so they really have to apply pressure to the mid lane, or they might decide to just keep going through the bot lane and take the tier 2. It's another way to be able to deal with the Tinker, since once you take the tier 2, it's very difficult to be able to farm the bot lane, at least until the Blink Dagger comes online for Tinker. Notra, he gets a very lucky Entangle proc over on Jin Young. If that didn't proc, Notra could have actually taken the fall there, as he was in position to be able to catch him out with the cogs. Looks like Tranquil Boots is up on the Lone Druid. So the Ring of Protection being transferred over to his master, and he most likely wants to be going towards the Radiance as soon as possible. Radiance is a fantastic pickup, especially against the Tinker, since you're going to disable his Blink. So even if you're not able to, again, rank to go against him, well, I say that Clubs runs in, catching up the lead seed, the big bad tree starts smacking on you, he's praying for an Entangle proc, the Spirit Person 1 actually absorbing all the barrier assault, and he's actually just barely able to keep himself alive. And so the movement speed coming up from the Tranquil Boots really paying off there. Living Armor has been used over in Junior, so he's not really going to be too happy with that, but they're leaving HX16 alone now over in that safe lane, over in the Radiant safe lane, and that could be a mistake. Clinkz is a highly timing-specific hero. Looks like they have caught him out with the dust. Arrow should be flying fairly shortly. The Ice Path, unfortunately, whips. That's the drawback of the Jakiro. He throws out the arrow to force him back out, but HX16 does juke him out by being able to double back before he heads on home. So he's been forced out of the lane. Dark Pact isn't available yet, so he doesn't have that sustainability. And so that's the intrinsic weakness of the Jakiro, because you have such a high cast point. Very difficult to consider Ice Path to be reliable, even if you have an exceptionally skilled Jakiro player. Looks like now Ramen going for a caster Abbadon build, so no point in the Curse of Avernus just yet. You usually see even just one value point because it gives you a lot of early game DPS, especially in the try-v-try situation, since it's boosting the attack speed of your allies as well. So the understudy looks like he's now taking farm priority over in the bot lane. So it will be interesting to see what item he decides to go for. Usually when you see a support position runner, you see Arcane Boots up on him so you could afford to spam out the arrow. But that being said, because he's not opting for any points in the Starstorm, going for Phase Boots on Mirana is usually core, because it gives you the base damage you need to be to contest CS and lane if you happen to be the off lane or safe lane farmer. It gives you a huge amount of mobility, especially in conjunction with Leap, since Leap effectively functions as a Drums of Endurance on demand. So not only can you use it for mobility, you can also use it very aggressively to buff the rest of your teammates, since it now provides the movement speed and attack speed buff where you leap from as opposed to where you land. So we've got Phase Boots up on him, and Crab Pack, he's still going to be carrying Arcane. You're going to continuously apply pressure to that tier 2, because they're on the clock right now. Jab Curry, they haven't contested them at all. In terms of CS, he's actually got double the CS of the Death Prophet. It looks like Kin Yong once again takes a fall to the Entangle proc. And Wasker with that Invis rune leading the charge. He actually opted for no points in Exorcism, so he's got to be very careful. Now the Ramen turned into a chicken. He doesn't have the borrowed time yet, so he's going to pop the Aphelic Shield himself, playing very aggressively. They are able to bring down Alexander George Lucas. Clubs as well should be taking a fall. Wasker wants to commit to it since he got that Crypt Swarm. Decides not to. He needed one more right click, instead go over on Jack Curry. And now the Ramen, he's walking through that march. Those robots, they don't contain candy, they contain damage. They're now forced back, and he actually could be taking a fall. The missile is enough to be able to bring him down. Wasker, one more right click in the Entangle proc coming up from the Lone Druid is able to bring him down. Kin Yong, fortunately, whips the hook shot, and he actually should be taking a fall right now. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place, the best savagely mauling him. And Wasker with the movement speed coming in from the Bushcraft, never mind, the Living Armor comes online. It's just barely enough to keep him hale and hardy. Clinkz is now on the hunt for Wasker. If he positions himself in front of Wasker before he attacks, he should be able to bring him down, since he'll be that animation cancel his last few right clicks. But now the Ramen immediately rotates and Smoke Nut Brace, so they know he's there. They've got the dust, they really want to use it. Wasker, they just take one right click, so it does break his mana clarity. Looks like he's the one going to be on mech duty. So no Exorcism up, and the rationale behind not going for Exorcism is you know that against the Tinker, you're not really going to be able to push against them, especially once the Rearm March combo comes online. And so going for more points in Exorcism means you could afford to spam out your Crypt Swarm. It's a bit of a trade-off, since you could have decided to still go for the Exorcism and wait until Jap Curry goes to try to clear out Ancients and then take his tier 1 to at least punish him for it. But that being said, they are able to take the tier 2 over the bottom lane. Alexander George Lucas does juke out the understudy's arrow. And Lone Druid now picked up Phase Boot, so Notra are going to be playing very aggressively with that Spirit Pair. They've placed a very unconventional ward over here, so they know that if they placed a hero there, it would be warded out. So good recognition coming up from TDC. They want to spot out Tinker when he goes for Ancients and pick him off then. And that's when he's at his most vulnerable. And if they are able to kill Tinker and delay his Boots of Travels for another 3 to 4 minutes while they start applying pressure on the towers, it becomes very difficult. And that's the advantage of the Lone Druid. Is while he's a very unusual timing specific hero in the sense that he peaks at the 20-minute mark, usually when Radiance comes online, and then he starts to taper off at the 35-minute mark, you could fight very early on with the Lone Druid. So you can't consider him as a hard carry unless he's exceptionally farmed, but you can consider him as a very timing specific semi carry. Similar to the Clinkz. Clinkz can hard carry if he gets enough farm, but he has to start to snowball. And he looks like he's opting to go for Hand and Midas despite playing so far from behind, and despite having the Tinker on his team. Absolute greed coming out from him. Would not recommend going for Hand and Midas, especially when you know the enemy team has a very powerful pushing oriented lineup, since you got the Death Prophet as well as the Jakiro. If you go for greed, they're going to take every single one of your towers before the Midas starts to pay for itself, and you're in a very bad position then. HX16 hunting the understudy. He does have Moonlight Shadow available, and I don't think they have any Dust or Sentries prepared. Yeah, they don't. They're going to rely on just being able to lock him down. Moonlight Shadow pops as he spots Alexander George Lewis, and they've got no Dust, no Sentries. That is on Courier. So it looks like you fight with the items you have, not the items you want. And with the Moonlight Shadow, they're able to apply pressure over to the mid lane, as they have no idea where the hell they are. Notro actually takes the tier 2, and so TDT, they haven't shut down Tinker by killing him, but they've instead shut him down by taking objectives. So good recognition coming up from them. It's one of the more effective ways to shut down Tinker. Ideally, you want to do both. You want to kill him and take his towers, but if you have to choose between one or the other, you always want to prioritize taking towers over just killing the Tinker. Since once you take those towers, until the Blink Dagger comes online, Tinker is now at threat. He's only got one tier 2 tower left. It provides a massive influx of gold for the rest of your team, and since Tinker's going to be depriving farm from everybody else, you can rely on the gold advantage, and your hands be to swing these early fights. So 7,500 gold lead. The advantage of Mirana in that 4 position role is because Raman now being driven out of lane, he's now rotating, so he doesn't have farm priority. The understudy can now function as another core hero, but being able to continuously rotate into lanes and be able to find CS. Looks like he's picked up a very early Yasha, so it looks like he is going to be going for his famous Sanjin Yasha build. We've got an entire 5-man rotation going, the 4-man rotation going over to the bottom lane, as the tank is simply going to be BOTing all across the map to go find some farm. So Jakiro, he needs his Blink Dagger now if he wants to be able to stay alive in these engagements. We do have a 12-minute Hand of Midas, so it's not the worst timing for the Hand of Midas, especially considering the amount of pressure to be placed on him. The issue with this is Clinkz. He's a very timing specific hero. You want to go for Orchid ASAP, Orchid or Blink Dagger. If you're not able to find one of your timing specific items and start going for kills or snowballing on kills, you fall apart very quickly, because you can't rely on Clinkz as a hard carry. Similar to a Lifestealer, you're very powerful early on, so you have to really stress that advantage. Notro going very far forward, he's actually a bit out of position there. Jakiro waiting the wings to immediately start spamming out the Martian Machines. So if you're not able to capitalize in the first 20 minutes, you want to ideally farm up something like a 8 to 11 minute Orchid Malevolence, rotate across the map, hunt for kills, aggressively place pressure on the enemy team, force the supports to always stick together, force them to clump, and then the rest of your team can farm up the other 3 lanes uncontested. Works very well when you have a Tinker on your team, because you're able to force the clump up, and while they're clumped up, Tinker farms the other lanes and split pushes. But of course, if you go for the Midas, the Midas could be because he expects himself not to be able to find too much farm, and he wants to maintain some kind of item and experience parity. With Jakiro, since Jakiro is going to be depriving him of experience from everywhere. Looks like borrow time is pop, another run. But of course, the drawback to that is the Midas isn't going to pay for itself until for another 10 minutes. So if the game does go long enough, then it's definitely going to pay for itself, and you do have that late game advantage with the net worth starting to go into your favor. But of course, if they're able to take all your towers by that point, the Midas gives you nothing. If they fight 5v5, Clinkz, if he runs at them, he's going to die very quickly. He doesn't have enough HP or enough utility to really be able to walk into these fights. He's only got 2 points in the Skeleton Walk as well, so if the Dust is available, they should be able to run him down. And Notro looks like he's going for Maelstrom, so he's going for a much more mid-game oriented build. The advantage of the Maelstrom is it lets you come online much earlier on, and it does increase your chances of entangling, but at the same time, it's a bit of a drawback, since like the Maelstrom proc won't stack with the entangling claws, and both have the proc at the same time. It'll actually override it, and so it can actually decrease your chances of the entangling claws proccing. But that being said, still a very effective mid-game pickup. Would have preferred the Radiance, because it gives you a lot more teamfight impact. It means that your bear is contingent on hitting people in order to deal damage in these engagements, as opposed to simply being alive with the Radiance Bone. But considering that TDT are playing very active early on, and they want to keep applying pressure, they're going for these early to mid-game items to start to snowball. And the understudy actually looks like he opted to prioritize Leap over Arrow, since he knows that with the phase and now the Yasha, he's going to get more damage from right clicks, so the attack speed buff he gets from Leap is going to pay off more than the additional point Arrow. Notro runs in, he's turned into a chicken, he's got his Spirit Back coming in, now put up the Shackles. We've got the Ice Path coming in from Crap Pack, does catch out Alexander George Lucas, Grave Silence as well, Exorcism pops, and Alexander George Lucas, unfortunately, he could be taken for never mind, he's barely keeping himself alive. There we go. So the Spirit damage as well as the Liquid Fire able to bring down. Pinyon falls back with the Living Armor, another Ramen, leading the charge. He does get hook shotted out by him, but they should be able to apply pressure to the Tatsu. Jakiro doing his thing, he's been completely left alone for the duration of that fight. Another Ramen stands his ground up against Pinyon. Borrow time has been forced, unfortunately, but with that Exorcism and the Liquid Fire coming off cooldown, they should be able to take that Tatsu tower. And with that, they lose their last bastion of hope for this game. It's very difficult for them to be able to find space to farm. Since in terms of map control, TDT, warding very aggressively. There's 2 wards available for the Radiant side, but this is a very obvious ward spot put in place there. This is to ensure that they spot rotation coming to the jungle, and this ward's only useful so long as the tier 2 tower's up, to prevent them from being hiding around here, and then blinking or force staffing themselves in to go for pickoff, or Crap Pack can position himself here, throw an Ice Path and try to catch heroes off guard. But instead, they're going for Roshan, so they're going to capitalize their advantage, because TDT, they know they're on the clock. They can't afford to let the game go late. If the game goes past 35 minutes, Waska over in the Death Prophet really starts to taper off. Notra as well, that lone Druid, unless he's exceptionally farmed, he too starts to taper off. So you want to breach high ground ASAP. And the best way to be the breach high ground against Tinker is to have that Aegis the Immortal so you could afford to sit in the march and not really give a damn. So for 4 stuff now for Crab Pack, it's a great counter pick, since it works very well against Clockwork. So if he hookshots into the Jakiro, since Jakiro most likely is going to be the priority target, to be the completely neuter his effectiveness in these engagements, he could 4-staff himself out, since 4-staff doesn't have a cast point, and so you could use it to negate the impact of the cogs. Looks like the other side just threw out a casual arrow to farm. He's going to be the one carrying the Aegis, so he's now functioning as their 1-position farmer.
By the gods, the Dire's bottom tower doesn't even have arms to defend
Another
itself.
Ramen. Very surprised he hasn't upgraded his boots. Usually see phase boots or Tranquil Boots over the Abbadon. Tranquil Boots works well since it doesn't break the miscoil. So it lets you play a bit more active when you're spamming out that miscoil. But will be interesting to see if TDT are able to breach high ground. A lot of pressure is going to be placed on them. They do catch out too with the Ice Path. Great Ice Path coming up from Crab Pack. Now they're Robin. He's got borrowed time available, so he's going to be leading that charge. They're going to continuously apply Slow Siege with the Liquid Fire coming out from Crab Pack. So every single time it's off cooldown, you can just walk up, hopefully, and there we go. Got Underside's favorite item, the Sanjin Yasha. Opting for, now he's going to choose to prioritize stats, since he doesn't like going for early points in Starstorm. He actually doesn't like Starstorm at all, open the Mirana. It does give you a huge amount of damage impact, but until you get a level 3, level 4, unless you're able to consistently get double Starstorms, it's actually very inefficient for damage from mana. And so you can't understand the rationale behind it, and there you go. The understudy is saying full, he loves it. He knows that I keep calling him out on the Sanjin Yasha. Although that being said, it is a very effective snowballing item if you get it early, and he's gotten it by the 18-minute mark, so it definitely can provide a lot of presence. And it looks like Clubs, Treant Protector split pushing over in the top lane, so some pretty unconventional plays coming up from there. Waska eating a lot of damage from the march as well as the laser. Looks like the Master Submorphs have been dropped. Alexander George Lewis, he looks like... Never mind, it's Jakiro, so the Jakiro is the one throwing out the March Machine to the missile, and this is the issue of breaching high ground against a Tinker. If you don't kill him outside his base, he's going to constantly be spamming out the missiles whilst the March Machine makes it very impossible to go on him, but Jakiro does eat an arrow to the face. Fantastic plays coming from the understudy. They should be able to bring him down in time, never mind, they weren't able to capitalize. Notra is now a bit out of position, and the Mass Serpent Wars is now turned to a chicken, being pushed back by the cogs, and Kin Yong should finally be able to find his vengeance. Might be able to bring him down. No, the miscall comes up from Nada Ramen. Nada Ramen acting like a secret service, safeguarding the president. And they are able to breach the tier 3, and so they do have that going for them in the sense that your creep wave will now should be able to walk up and actually give you vision, since the biggest advantage their high ground defender has is the fact that you've got no vision of the enemy team. So you have no idea where Jakiro is. He's now playing very aggressively over in the top lane. They still have the Aegis. And the understudy, he's just going to be continuing to defend his tower, find a bit more farm. And so good recognition coming up from TDT. They chose not to overcommit, so they haven't really given away anything. Since Clubs was the one slip pushing, and the Treant Protector, he didn't necessarily do too well with items. He could ideally, he wants to pick up a Blink Dagger later on. Looks like he's going for a bit of an unconventional build, so not looking to prioritize that living armor. Went for a split build with the Leech Seed, as well as an early point in the Nature Skies. Would have preferred maxing out the living armor since they're playing so defensively. He does eat an arrow to the face, understudy, unfortunately doesn't have any vision of him. So the arrow doesn't provide true sight. HX16, the Clinkz, you can apply split pushing presence with him. He's a very powerful split pusher. Looks like he is going for the Orchid, but at the earliest he's going to be getting something like a 24-25 minute Orchid, and you've missed your timing mark. You want to get Orchid before 20 minutes. Ideally you want to get it before 15 minutes, because that's when you could go on one of the supports and they can't do anything. You just run them down. Looks like we've got a Maelstrom as well as a Molnir build up coming up from Notra, and so the Molnir on the Bear gives you a huge amount of work, because the Bear can slow siege very effectively, since it has the Demolish passive, so it does extra damage to towers. Mass Serpent Ward's been committed, but Nada Ramen immediately leashes back to Creep Wave, and supports rotate in, so they're just going to farm up the Mass Serpent Wards. I'll tell you, Waska actually gets a kill. So Treant Protector kind of being a little bit cheeky over in the top lane. It looks like Crab Pack, he's going to be the Sacrificial Lamb, as HX16 finally able to find a kill. Just burn him down with a saving arrow. So they trade support for support, but Crab Pack, he's a much more important support than the Treant Protector, because they really rely on this Liquid Fire to be applied slow siege. Waska, they do have Exorcism, it's now level 2 Exorcism, so Mech as well as Yule Scepter up on the DP. So fantastic build coming up from him. Looks like Kin Yong is going to be taking fall. One more right click from the understudy. He is now out of mana, but he's got the Aegis. Aegis will be expiring in about 3-4 minutes. So with that uncharged, he's going to immediately rotate through the mid lane. Looks like Tinker has picked up a Dagon. And so the two conventional build orders for the Tinkers. You either want to go for Sheepstick or you want to go for Dagon, but while I say that, fight is breaking out. Exorcism has been turned by Wasker. Wasker's hanging as far back as possible to give them no avenue of approach to going for him. Notra going for the range racks in case if they're not unable to breach the melee racks, since the range racks is no regen. Ice Path flies, not a ramen, borrow time's being pop. Wasker's taking a huge amount of damage, he's barely keeping himself alive with that mech charge. HX16 playing very aggressively against him, another he's got the miscroll, so he's able to keep him up. And Age is going to be reclaimed in a minute, but they are able to finally breach their first set of racks. And the Tinker pickups now starting to lose a lot of momentum. Moonlight Shadow being used, so it looks like some alliance level plays. They're going to double back and try to go for a pickoff, especially since HX16 is going to be left on his own. It looks like that's a Radiant side Sentry Ward, so they are able to spot it out. And they should immediately be backing off. Understudy now turns into a chicken. He's got Aegis, so he doesn't actually give a damn if he does. He wants to die at this point, so he can burn off their Aegis and come back to full mana. Fortunately, it looks like his arrow whiffed. And so they're going to be backing off, continuing to find some farm. Looks like he's now caught up, and he dies, but the Aegis pops, and so they're very happy with that. Macropyre dropped on top of that. Understudy, he's got Leap available. Looks like he actually gets pushed out by the cogs. And they should be able to disengage off the back of that. So in terms of golden experience only 4,000 since they have been grouping up as 5. So look, arrow actually lands on X16. Notra turned into a chicken once again. Really digging some KFC moves coming up from Alexander George Lewis. He's been positioning himself fairly effectively in these engagements, all things considered. Considering the high mobility coming up from the understudy, he actually hasn't taken as many deaths as I would have thought. And so it looks like he's going for a 4 staff of his own with that staff of wizardry pickup. Going back to the Tinker build, you usually want to go for a Dagon if you're playing from ahead, so you can use it to immediately kill one of their backline heroes with your combo, or if your team lacks damage. Otherwise, you want to go for a Sheepstick, especially if you're playing from behind, because it gives you a lot more a guaranteed utility. Since at worst, once you're able to farm up the Sheepstick, you could defend almost indefinitely. You could constantly use the Sheep passive here to disable the carry heroes from being effective. You'd use it to disable the Abbadon, which is going to be the critical factor in these engagements. Since with that mech and the Abbadon, it's very difficult for you to be able to burst down these supports, because you can't go on Crap Pack, you don't have enough damage to kill him outright. And so the mech is guaranteed to keep Crap Pack alive. Then the shield and the Niskel comes in from another ramen. And so the Dagon is being picked up because they really do lack damage. So that's the other issue with Cheesecake Gaming's draft. Clinkz, he's the one meant to be providing the damage, and he has picked up an Orchid, so 23 minutes into the game. Finally able to farm it up. But of course, the only hero that he could go on with the Orchid is Nadaram. If he goes on anybody else, the Abbadon just shields them. And then you stand your ground, you kill the Clinkz. Even with the Dark Pack, Clinkz only has about 1,100 HP. They can man-fight him quite effectively. And the Liquid Fire from Jakiro, it does snare attack speed by a fair amount. And with the 4 staff as well, it's going to be difficult for Clinkz to be able to get all these shots in. That's the reason why you sometimes see Blink Dagger get picked up on Clinkz, especially if you're playing from behind. It gives you the ability to be able to reposition yourself so you can constantly get all these shots in. Because once the supports start having things like 4 staffs and Ghost Scepters, it's very difficult for Clinkz to be relevant. If you're able to kite out the Clinkz or make him waste the majority of his strafe, he's a very squishy hero, and if he doesn't have Shadowed walk-off cooldown, if there's a sentry drop, you can very easily turn and kill him. And so the Clinkz pickup hasn't really been all too effective. You do have the luxury of being able to split push with the Clinkz, but considering the fact they've only actually taken 1 tower, looks like the mid tower almost in deny range, and so he can look at to rotate mid and actually just finish it off. Stand next to the tower, pop strafe, and just right click it down, since the tower ones don't have backdoor regen. And so it's an avenue that Cheesecake Gaming really need to look to go for. Looks like they're playing from a net cafe, so one of their players just going to be quickly go top up his account. We've got the Molnir picked up, as well as the casual Gloves of Haste up on the Spirit Bear. So another Gloves of Haste being picked up on the Lone Druid. This is a very old school Dota 1 kind of build. If you want to make your Spirit Bear as efficient as possible, you just stack Gloves of Haste. Since it gives you much more cost efficient DPS than any other item. Especially since you don't really want to be building damage on the Spirit Bear if you're going for the Molnir route. You probably want to build survivability or attack speed. So going for something like an Assault Cuirass gives you a lot more pushing presence. I'm very surprised that Nadaram opted not to go for the Vladimir's offering. It's a great pickup on the Abbadon, because it gives you the things that he lacks, which is mana regen as well as armor. It also gives you a lot more pushing presence, since it provides that +5 armor for the rest of his team as well as for the creep wave. And it works well against the Mass Serpent Wards, and you do have you've got 2 melee heroes at least to be able to sort of capitalize from it. You're not really picking up for the lifesteal, more so for the armor aura, as well as the damage aura that provides. It's Vladimir's offering. If you're going for these early push kind of lineups, very efficient pickup, because it gives you a lot of stats for a fairly small amount of gold. Clinkz looks like he is going to be rotating mid, and so we've got the immediate pings coming out. We've now got a Gem and True Sight. Arrow flies, unfortunately, just barely whiffs. So the understudy has been whiffing a fair few over in HX16 this game, but he's been catching out the rest of his team fairly consistently. Looks like he's going to be going for the Maelstrom of his own. So Maelstrom on Mirana works very well because you're guaranteed to get all these free shots in, and the Maelstrom procs are guaranteed to go off. So you're able to deal a fair amount of AoE presence in these engagements. Also works very well if you happen to go for Starstorm Mech. He is able to just barely whiff over on King Yong. King Yong showing off his 4-star. Looks like he's going to be on mech duty. It's very running forward with that Static Storm buff. Takes a few clicks, and the Molnir provides you incredibly cost-efficient DPS, since it also applies that AoE damage to the enemy team. In HX16, he's going top, he's split pushing, because that's the only avenue they can look to go towards. They can't really try to defend as 5, because if they try to defend as 5, they will be taking a fall, so Tinker, he's going to be the one spamming up March, delaying them for as long as possible. And without Aegis, they can't just run down through the bot lane without being at severe risk themselves. So Notra, he's going to be hanging back and slow sieging with Bear. Arrow Flies unfortunately hits a creep. So creep tanking a grenade for you. HX16, he should be able to split push down the tier 2 before they're able to breach high ground. And Living Armor now is starting to come online. The issue with the Treant Protector is Living Armor only really works against split pushing or against slow siege. Otherwise, if they simply just run and kill the tower, Living Armor does nothing. Understand he's silenced up, he has to look to deny this tier 2, and he does deny it. So HX16, showing off his Orca, not really able to accomplish too much with it. He is able to give them a bit more map control by taking that tier 2. And so he can start to split push and apply pressure over to the tier 3. But otherwise, TDT, they're forced back, for now they're going to wait for the next Roshan, it has respawned. So they really need to try to take another set of racks. Since Tinker can still recover from one set of racks down, it is very difficult of course, since you could always smoke or Moonlight Shadow in through the mid, and then try to pick him off on the side. And they're expecting you to come from here, so that's a tactic they could look to utilize. That's the reason why a lot of teams, they usually drop Obs and Sentries here immediately after their tier 3 drops. Because if the game does go late, Tinker still can recover, even 1 racks down. He actually goes in over on the other side, he's just barely able to lift his combo, so he's not able to bring him down yet. Looks like he opted for the Ghost Scepter, so he's been going for the most cost-efficient build. Dagon 1 into the E-Blade, so it gives you much more cost-efficient DPS than maxing out the Dagon. Of course, maxing out the Dagon if you're ahead does give you a lot more initial burst damage, since you don't have to farm up the E-Blade, so it comes online a lot earlier. So if you're snowballing, if you want to end the game quickly, or continuously apply pressure on the supports, upgrading your Dagon enables you to consistently pick them off with 1 combo in these engagements. HX16, he really wants to go for that tier 1. So he's in the Skeleton Walk, but he's going to wait until it's off cooldown before he commits. So that if they happen to be sitting next to him, looks like we've got 2 disconnect coming out from Notra as well as Crap Pack. So a few issues coming up from them with a quick pause. And then take a quick look at items as well as Golden Experience while this is happening. In terms of net worth, we do see that Tinker is actually leading the net worth scoreboards, but that's to be expected since he's taking farm from everywhere else. Clinkz, with that Hand of Midas, is recovered quite nicely, even though it did cost them a set of racks. So if the game does go late enough, Clinkz will start to recover, since you've got the Hand of Midas gold to really rely upon. Looks like we've got fairly standard items over on clubs, as well as Alexander George. He really wants his 4-star. He might be able to farm it up in time. About 300 gold off it, Ken Yong. He's been going towards the mech, and so Clockwork's a great hero to go for mech because he's the one that's usually forcing these engagements by initiating in. So it looks like we are reconnecting back in. And the other side, they're opting to go for Desolator, so they need some kind of negative armor, especially if they're on the push, since they opted not to go for the Assault Cuirass. Or could be used on a range creep. Crap Pack stands his ground. He is going to be taken full as Jakiro comes in. The HX16 is now caught up the silence. Courier does fly through as well. Oscar playing very far forward. He's forced to Yule Cycle himself up. Looks like he's probably going to be going for a Sheepstick or a Sheep's Guard. And so he throws down Arrow. Fortunately, Arrow whiffs as Jakiro is in there with the Ethereal form. He doesn't have enough mana to be able to use his Rearm though, so he should be taking a fall right now. Unless he's able to blink out. But with the pressure coming in from the Spirit Band and Tangle Funding procs, they are able to bring him down. And with Tinker down outside the base, he does have buyback. They have to try to push a set of racks now in order to force out that buyback. Looks like Mass Serpent Wards were committed somewhere. So Shadow Shaman was able to use it to be able to take out Adai's mid lane. They're able to clean up clubs. And over the bottom lane, Clinkz as well, he takes a fall. So they're able to bring him down. And TDT, they now have to press the attack and force the buybacks to come out from Cheesecake Gaming. If they don't do this, then Cheesecake Gaming is still able to delay and somewhat recover from this, but if they go for the Jugular right now, if they take down the set of racks and force them to buy back and they really don't want to, they could then choose to back themselves off. Well, they actually have all their ultimates up, they can choose to continue to fight. Fortification has now been forced as well. It's a 5-minute window that TDT had. Looks like the Courier did take a fall, so it looks like the Dire Side Courier was sniped off somewhere amidst all that. HX16 does catch out silence over this time on the hero, but immediately the APoG shield flies. Arrows land on Alexander George, who takes a fall. Understudy, gotta be very careful, actually could be taking a fall right now. Necropie has been used to force out Yin Yang. Understudy, he's just standing his ground, he doesn't give a single damn. He's got the APoG shield as well as the miscall coming up from Nada Ramen. Nada Ramen's now out of mana, so he's gonna be forced back. He's out of ramen, he's out of noodles. He's got the uncharge, he's gonna be using that on the understudy to keep him held and held in these engagements. Arrow flies. It looks like he catches Jakiro, so he can't defend that to the Rex now. It's a melee to the Rex. Even if they are able to wipe TDT, they're more than happy to be able to take that trade. So Crab Pack providing some defensive fire with the Ice Path and immediately backing off. So good plays coming in from TDT. They forced out the buybacks and they're still able to take a set of Rex off the back of that. So they've now put themselves in a commanding position for this game. The tanker pickup, despite being on the Radiant side, because they lost so many towers so early on, and with the greed coming out from HX16, over on that Clinkz, as well as the Orchid on a range creep, really things are really starting to fall apart for them. It's difficult for them to start to recover now, because you've got pressure constantly being applied from two lanes, and so Tinker's is just barely going to be, he's now forced to expend another march, so it's another rearm cycle he has to go through in order to break even. Since the added benefit of taking Rex, not so much the fact that they're always going to be pushing forward, is that they don't give as much golden experience, and so you're starving them out of golden experience, you have that macro advantage, and so you're able to utilize that to just hide it out, farm 3 lanes at once, farm your jungle and their jungle, maybe wait for Roshan to come back up, and then go for another engagement once you have another set of items. So this is what teams like IG as well as VG like to do. They like to win the macro advantage by taking these early objectives, the tier 1s and tier 2s, ward very aggressively, so the enemy team, they're forced to set just inside their base or just barely outside their base. They've got no map vision aside from the defensive ward being placed here, but this ward doesn't really give you too much when you don't have any towers, because the only way they're going to be rotating is through your jungle, and most likely going to be going through there or there, especially with the smokes available. Everyone is going rat hunting over in the top lane, unfortunately, not able to catch him out in time. And with the aggressive ward being placed out on high ground, they can spot where the enemy team is positioned if they look to defend through mid or through bot. They've also got a ward placed here to prevent them access to their own jungle. And so the only hero that can now safely farm outside their base is Jakiro. And even then, he's got to be very careful. With the gem picked up on Nada Ramen, this ward should be de-warded out fairly soon if they happen to stumble upon it. Abbadon, he's a good gem carrier in the sense that he's very beefy and very durable, but the ideal gem carrier would be somebody like a Visage or a Venomancer that could de-ward without risk themselves. And understudy eats a huge amount of damage from the martial machines. Mirana, while a very powerful hero, she is incredibly squishy, so it's one of her biggest weaknesses. That's why she has such a massive amount of mobility. We now have a Blink Dagger picked up by Treant Protector, and so with the overgrowth, he could try to set up for the tanker to spam out these marches. Borrowed time has been forced from Nada Ramen, so he doesn't want to commit to a push until that's off cooldown, because you really are dependent on that borrowed time, especially if he gets orchided up by Clinkz. But every time HX16 doesn't orchid the Abbadon, his orchid's going to be completely useless. So we've got a very aggressive ward being placed there. This does provide flying vision. And so if Tinker's able to BOT blink out into these trees, it should be able to spot them out. So really good recognition coming out from them. I believe this is a mechanic only in Dota 2, as in Dota 1 you can't ward outside the map. And they're hiding. They're going to patiently wait for Tinker to BOT top, because they know that he's not going to be BOTing mid or bot, because he's not going to be finding as much farm. He's going to be going there to be able to push him out. It's a maintenance march, just to ensure they don't get pushed in. But ideally he wants to go through top. And with these wards placed in, TDT, their entire team can afford this there. And it's about to pay off. Jakiro blinks in. Arrow flies out from the understudy. They punch him in the face, and they should be the right to come down. Ghost Scepter flies, so unfortunately, the Ice Path is there to be able to lock him down. And so great plays coming from TDT. With Tinker down, he does have buyback, and he really doesn't want to use it. He's going to delay his E-Blade. His E-Blade will be delayed for another minute and a half if they are able to force him to buyback. It looks like Notra actually bought a Radiance. So Radiance, it's still a good pickup on the Spirit Bear, because the Bear is always going to be relevant. It gives you a lot of damage so you can help siege these towers earlier. It means that you actually can't ignore the Spirit Bear anymore. Since before, you can ignore the Spirit Bear, so he has to hit people in order for the Bear to be effective. Now with the Radiance, he can just sit there and run at them. Even if the hero is nowhere near there, the Radiance burn damage is going to be enough. Would have preferred it about 15 minutes ago, since it would have done a lot more work over on the Shadow Shaman. Looks like, while it's happening, they are going on HX16. Exorcism has been forced as well. Jakiro doing his thing, spamming out the march. Kind of Cyclone coming out. We've got a huge PPD play coming out from Clubs. He has to catch out 3. They are able to bring down the understudy. Ice Path flies on the Club, so he should be the retaliatory kill. Pin Yong as well. Throws out the rocket flare, unfortunately whiffs. Mech's being used on himself to try to keep himself alive for as long as possible. His teammates are probably asking him where the hell was that mech earlier. Mass Serpent Wards are able to defend their tier 3. But tier 4s are taking a fall. As Notra, he doesn't really give a damn about the other set of racks, he's just going in for it. Jakiro is able to bring down Wasker with Dagon. But while that happens, the tier 4s are now down, so these two sets of, with these two sets of lanes constantly pushing out as well, they're going to be playing incredibly defensively because they have to always keep a hero at base now. They can't afford to let these lanes push through. Jakiro blinking very far, forward playing aggressively. Should have actually BOT to this creep and wanted to go for a kill over Notra. Spirit Butterflies just doing a little bit of damage, forced them to pop his Ghost Scepter, and they back off. So the buyback is worthwhile for the Tinker because they're able to hold on to their last direction, prevent them from going into Megas. But at the same time, they lost their tier 4s. As well as they also lost clubs and the Clinkz. So clubs taking a fair amount of damage from super sized creeps.
We'll see how radiant they'll
Alexander
be
George
with a
Lucas, he
deadly
has picked up his 4-star. So he was able to use that to try to keep himself alive for as long as possible. But Kin Young, just barely able to bring down that catapult before it smacks down starts smacking at the racks. Jakiro, he's going to be having that E-Blade up, and since he doesn't have enough, the buyback cooldown's going to be coming off in 4 minutes. He might as well go for the E-Blade, because it's now or never. If they lose a fight, they're going to lose the game. Mirana with the Hyperstone, probably going to be going towards... She could be going towards an Assault Cuirass since she picked up the Desolator. And it's not a terrible item on the Mirana, since you've got the double negative armor coming in from the AC as well as the Deso. But would have preferred Molnir, but since you've already picked up a Desolator, there's no real point in going for a Molnir, because you've got the single target damage. So Deso or the Molnir, both are very efficient DPS pickups on the Mirana. It's just immediately pushing through the bomb lane. Throws out a cheeky right click on HX. E-Blade's now up. And so Clinkz actually should be able to bring down... Clinkz and Tinker should actually be able to bring down the understudy in these engagements with the Dagon E-Blade combo. Especially with a follow-up missile, but HX16 turns to a pig. Cripsol as well as the Ice Path, another Rumble should be able to cut him down. Especially the gem up on him. So the Vlad's now up. They should be able to just push their way through. They don't even have to push through top, since once creeps are in base, backdoor regen is disabled for the racks. Arrow flies up, doing a bit of scouting. Jakiro doing his thing, but he's actually caught up the Use Cyclone. Mass Open wants to drop, but they don't really give a damn at the wall, so you can afford to ignore them. Notra doesn't have the agency more, unfortunately. They do go in Wasker, as well as the other side. He's able to leap himself on out there, and Shin Young taking a few right clicks, and he should be taking a fall with the Tangling Claws coming out. So GG well played, being called 35 minutes in. TDT playing very impressively against the Tinker. Good recognition coming up from them. They knew when to press the advantage and when to back off, so they didn't overcommit against the Tinker and throw themselves against the high ground. So a game of a lot of strategic positioning, and it really does, a lot of it does boil down to the hand to Midas pickup over on Clinkz. If you went for an earlier Orchid, or if you decide not to go for an Orchid and picked up a much more effective item such as a Blink Dagger so he could play a lot more active early on, could have made a lot more space for his team. Since the Clockwork pickup, it was designed to not give away the Clockwork to the enemy team, as well as to provide that early game impetus. But when you've got two other heroes going Greed, and when the Treant Protector and Shadow Shaman aren't too effective early on, the lineup starts to fall apart. They really were dependent on HX16 to find a very early Blink Dagger or very early Orchid so that they could start to rotate and force the enemy team to clump. Otherwise, and then while that's happening, Tinker's able to free farm. So we're going to be taking a quick break, and we will be right back for, I believe, 5 IP up against TDT in the losers bracket and the grand finals. No, 5 IP will be playing up against Cheesecake Gaming. So we'll be right back